Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is January 7th, 2025, and this is the Daily AI Show Live. Thanks for joining us. Today we have Beth, Andy, Brian, and I am Karl. Nope. Let's try that again. We have Beth, Andy, Karl, and I'm Brian. Hey, that works too. Sometimes I like to play the role of Karl, just for fun, figure out what it's like to be in cold Canada right now and not Tampa, Florida. Um, hey, today we are talking about superintelligence, ASI. We will also talk a little bit about AGI. Mainly, we're going to talk about what reasons and what did Sam Altman mean a day or two ago when he put out a personal blog, as he's done several times throughout the year. Sort of reflecting, looking back. He covers a lot in that particular blog, not just AGI or ASI, but he does have a few key statements in there that has set the AI, news, whatever's a buzz. I mean, like it seems to me that there's 20 or 30 different citations to this. It's in all the newsletters that I subscribe to. Everybody is talking about this. So we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about what he actually said, not just, what we think he said, but the actual words that he said, so that we can start there. We're going to talk a little bit about super intelligence. We're going to talk a little bit, hopefully, about why I'm a little cranky on this, to be honest with you, and why I don't necessarily have a pushback, but why I am kind of crinkling my face a little bit at this blog, and I certainly think there are ulterior motives to play. So that's it. Let's jump into it. And I don't know, I can pull it up on my screen, or Karl, do you want to kind of kick off with
Yeah, yeah,
the actual what he actually said as part of this discussion?
yeah. So I think I don't know if Brian, you want to pull it up. I'll just keep talking about it while you find it. I have it too. Um,
I had a quote that you gave me from Slack,
right.
so I can pull that in.
Yeah. If you can.
Yeah.
So I think most people in the I call it the AI bubble because most people outside that bubble don't read Sam Altman's blog. I think too, the big pieces is when he was talking about AGI, superintelligence, AI agents. I think if you look at the blog as a whole, it's called Reflections. So he's talking about the second birthday of ChatGPT. He's thanking all the people. He's kind of going through the history of OpenAI. He's thanking the people that helped get them there. What happened with when ChatGPT came out, with 3.5 came out, the building of the company, when he was fired, how
Mm.
what he felt with that. I think if you also look at there's a Bloomberg article where he talks about that relationship with Elon Musk, the why he believes, I think, quote unquote, they when the board fired him, he they effed him and they effed the company, and he was left with a mess, and he had to clean it up. So I
Mm.
think there's, I think, a combination of parts to this, but the thing that everyone is really, whether excited, has different takes on, is what the 2 paragraphs at the very end where he says, "We are now confident we know how to build AGI as we have traditionally understood it. We believe that in 2025, we may see the first AI agents join the workforce and materially change the output of companies. We continue to believe that iteratively putting great tools in the hands of people leads to great, broadly distributed outcomes." I actually enjoy the last sentence there because if you notice how the release of certain companies are, and I've noticed it a little bit more, that even though they get the criticism, OpenAI keeps putting these tools. They'll announce it, but they'll give it in people can use it. I remember when GPT-4 came out and Sam Altman said, "Hey, we could either test it first in, Silicon Valley and then give it out, or we can put it in people's hands and let them figure it out and let them." I think generally that's what the mission is. And then the next paragraph, "We are beginning to turn our aim beyond that to super intelligence in the sense of the true word. We love our current products, but we're here for the glorious future. With super intelligence, we can do anything else. Super intelligence tools could massively accelerate scientific discovery, innovation well beyond what we're capable of doing on our own, and in turn massively increase abundance and prosperity." So those 2 paragraphs, everybody's just honing in on that. I think there's a lot more in the actual hence the title Reflections.
Yeah.
I do wanna also bring 2 pieces back into it is it's very similar to Machines of Loving Grace by Dario Amodei from, Anthropic, and there is a kind of parallel to this. So Ali K. Miller actually posted, on X where she was saying really abbreviated. So she said, "Every VCs I spoke to," or it was something about when is AGI gonna happen? So she said, like, all the AI labs believe it's like 2026 or 2027. All the VC she spoke to in 3 to 5 years. All the AI academics, they think in 10 years. So it depends on who you talk to and depends on where that is going. So just wanna bring all those pieces into it because I think we can't look at it just as a blog post, but we look at it kind of from an industry level. Who's saying what are they saying, and where are like, what the belief is over time. Like, you can't just take one blog post. I think it's like a trend. It's like, okay, all these people are saying kind of the same thing, or there's varying differences. We all know Jan LeCun's perspective. We all know Jeffrey Hinton's perspective. So all these different people, but we kind of see a trend from certain people going a certain way. So I think that's like important to bring into the discussion as well.
100%. I think, too, the other thing we have to bring in is Sam Altman's previous comments on this. He just talked about ASI and AGI in December when he said, I think we're a few thousand days away from ASI. That was just in December. He was sitting up on a stage when he did it. So certainly not the first time. Him and Ilya and others also put out a paper back in 2023 talking about ASI. And it's interesting to watch if you go back through time. I think with any of these leaders, these experts, people that we admire for their abilities and what they know in AI, and whether you are in the camp with Jan LeCun and I think Jan LeCun's the one that says like we can't get there with transformers, I believe, right? Isn't he? Didn't he say that? And then there's others that feel differently, right? That no, there's more compute to be had, and we maybe can get there. It's just about building bigger, better, badder data centers to get us there. We just need literally more energy, more compute, and some new innovations along the way to get there. So I think it's interesting the whole conversation. And you're right. There was also people at OpenAI. Somebody commented it was one of the leads in OpenAI, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me, but it was basically, it was a lot more fun to create new innovations OpenAI before we knew ASI was possible. And I thought that was a really interesting, and if I can find that, I'll bring that up. It's somebody prevalent at OpenAI saying this, not just a random person on Twitter. But I thought that was really interesting too, that there's this feeling of we know the pathway. We don't necessarily we're not necessarily saying how fast we'll get there. It's just that that's where our sights are set. So yeah, let's bring in other conversations here. Beth, Andy, your thoughts on this initially, and then kind of let's dive in a little bit more and sort of break this out a little bit about, at least I would like to talk to you at some point again about maybe the other reasons why, if you're Sam Altman, you would put out this blog right now. Because I think there's a lot there as well.
Okay, let me jump in. I think it'll be useful to make the distinction between artificial general intelligence, AGI, and superintelligence, as he's referring to it here. And I think he captures it in a couple of different phrasings here. But before I go there, I want to just mention that this was a kind of a dark reflection on a really astounding year. It was a dark year personally for him, and he makes some comment in there that I can't recall exactly, that shows just how deeply and emotionally he reacted to the firings episode, and a lot of it is referencing back to that. He also touches on it in I think a slightly defensive way, the massive turnover of the major, original founders of OpenAI going on to become competitors, and says specifically, when any company in an important industry is in the lead, lots of people attack it for all sorts of reasons, especially when they're trying to compete with it. I think this is a not so thinly veiled reference to Elon Musk and the difficulties that he's had with that. Okay. But, despite all of those, complaints, let's call them, he is really saying in two different sentences that we're going to see some amazing advances. And I think he's saying that AGI will be in 2025. When he says we may see the first AI agents join the workforce and materially change the output of companies, what he's saying is that replicants of human capabilities will be a part of your team. And if that isn't a sufficient definition of artificial general intelligence, I don't know what is. So I'm on the side of the camp that says that we're there with all the tools necessary. Now we just need to package them up together with some agency and put them in the workplace. And now you've got a side-by-side comparison of a human employee and an artificially generally intelligent employee who can live in that domain. And so now let's talk about the distinctions between artificial general intelligence and what he says about superintelligence, which he's seen like behind the scenes. He has a view to that. And Ilya Sutskever, one of the original people who've moved on to another role, he has also seen his path towards superintelligence. So let me just talk quickly about AGI. It's general purpose abilities, right? So it can understand, learn, and apply knowledge across a wide range of tasks, not just one task, which we see demonstrated every day in the AI that we use. It has learning and adaptability. It has decision-making capability, and it has creativity. And if it demonstrates all those things, then you have AGI. So how is that different from superintelligence? Well, superintelligence is superhuman capabilities. ASI, as its acronym is resolved, would outperform all humans in every intellectual and practical task, including those we can't currently solve. So that's a big step beyond artificial general intelligence, in my view, which is why I'm in the camp saying, hey, we're almost there. It's going to happen not in the next 1,000 days or 2,000 days, but in the next 365 days, something on that range. You're going to see it. But super intelligence is happening in narrow domains right now, but it's not general enough. And it also is not evidencing the next characteristic, which is self-evolution. It would have the ability to improve itself exponentially through independent learning and self-modification. And then problem solving. It could address problems that we don't have the logic or capacity of knowledge to solve. So that's super intelligence. And there's a bunch of ethical and existential implications about having such a powerful intelligence available to possibly nefarious actors alongside people who are highly motivated to see it produce the greatest good in the world. And I believe that that's Sam Altman's. That's his ethic about superintelligence as well as AGI.
So I have a question because I thought what you're saying in terms of super intelligence is new to me because I thought the limitation of needing to be everything, right? To know everything and be super at everything was not part of super intelligence. That by getting to super intelligence, now we're in silos, which is why he's talking about science. Because they're not trying to chase super intelligent at everything with something labeled as super intelligent. Did I miss something?
No, you're describing narrow superintelligence, and Sam Altman actually refers to AlphaGo as being super intelligent.
Right.
And AlphaGo is like
Just
ancient history, right? But it was specializing in one thing, which was playing the game of Go, a very complex game. It was super intelligent. It could beat any human. There's no human that could beat AlphaGo in a match in Go. That's also super intelligence, but it's not I think what we should really do is say there's artificial general intelligence, which is a low bar because they're compared to general human intelligence. And then there's artificial general superintelligence.
That's what I was just about to say. Are we saying this is AGSI?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think that's right. What do you got there?
AGI is is general intelligence better than humans everywhere. It doesn't limit, right? Like you can be just a little bit better and achieve AGI. You can also be a lot better and still add AGI because better is not a particularly specific definition. But
I think one is human level.
In my connotation of AGI, I'm not trying to make it better than the best human. I'm just saying artificial general intelligence is demonstrated when you have these capabilities, general purpose, learning and adaptability, decision making, and creativity. And it doesn't have to surpass the average human to show that, right? Because we would say that the average human is intelligent. Well, you can argue with that, but the average human is demonstrating intelligence. We have tests for that, like the Turing test and others. And I think that AGI is going to be achieved not against the most incredibly capable human. That's going to surpass. Here's another one. Instead of AGI meaning artificial general intelligence, let's call it average general intelligence, AGI. That's what I'm thinking about.
okay, so this highlights one of the most important things that is going to be a theme of 2025, which if you've ever played any game with any of your older brothers, you recognize, right? So how are we defining this? What are the rules before we move forward in any way? What is your definition of AGI? What is your definition? What is Sam's definition of AGI? What is, right? Like, what is
And
Robbie's definition of
Microsoft's
AGI?
definition of AGI, which they've put into legal contract with
Right.
OpenAI, which is an outrageous definition related to profitability, not to do with comparing them to human intelligence.
Right, which gets them all of the research and the ability to use anything that OpenAI produces until that bar is hit. And you notice that once that came out, which was AGI is AI that can produce 100 billion in revenue, it's something like that. And once that was announced and released, it's no longer a part of any discussion about whether AGI has been achieved, right? Like it was a specific legal framework needed to that had meaning purely for OpenAI and Microsoft.
I just want to throw out there, I mean, to me, the leap from general to super, which is sort of what we're talking about here, is when we get to super intelligence, we're saying it surpasses human capabilities in virtually all domains. That's super, right? That's above and beyond. If you were just to talk about 100 people in a room and then start figuring out who you thought was dumb as a rock, who had intelligence, who had more intelligence, and who seemed to be super intelligent comparatively to the room in all domains, we could quickly do that as humans and say, well, this person has uncanny ability to reason through this, that, and the other, or solve puzzles, or whatever test we might throw to those 100 humans to determine that. So I think to me, it's that across virtually all domains is where it lands in super intelligence. Sam talks about it not only in this blog and the Reflections blog, but also he has many times in the past. This is where I think we get to the ability very quickly to start solving big problems that have been previously insolvable. That you can go into the medical side there and go into healthcare, and there's a lot to uncover there. Just think about the ability of quantum computing with ASI existing and how quickly it could run through billions of different potential calculations to come up with exactly the right drug treatment, or maybe it's something better than that for any single person dealing with whatever their unique, like the four of us might all have technically the same cancer, but our treatments might be drastically different or different enough to get the cocktails right and stuff. And having the ability of a system to say, I know exactly how to approach this in order to get the best outcome. That's something that we can conceptualize as humans It's not something that we have the ability to necessarily do for any single human on the planet, because cost becomes a problem. It's not that we can't throw enough at it, but would it be realistic enough to do that if it took 20 years to compute the output? Well, maybe not. Person may not have survived that long, right? So I think the idea that these answers in this super intelligence would be, for lack of a better word, immediately available and then continuously adapted and evolved to continue to be right for as biomarkers change. And this is just healthcare. And I'll take it and put it into supply and logistics, take it and put it into, any agriculture, put it into any other domain you want. I think, to me, that's where I see the biggest potential, the biggest improvement, is that you have computers. We're saying artificial. We're talking about computers that have the ability to solve big, deep, complex problems at 1 of 1, n equals 1 scale, which is impressive, because that's not how we treat right now. That's not how we go about things. We look at all the data and we say, well, these top 100 people have responded positively through trials and all this other stuff that has to happen. I think in the future, this will all happen virtually. These trials and stuff like that will get much, much closer to getting these solutions out to people, perhaps within the same day that they're presenting with the initial problems, which gets into the preventative medicine and saving lots of lives and things like that. So that's where I see it personally, is just that bump between the two, since we're talking about it. I could be wrong, but that's the big difference I see. You're on mute, Karl.
Yep.
So my question is, when they release the 5 levels of AI, and so I always thought level 5, which is organizations, AI that can run an entire organization, pretty much create an entire organization, would that be defined as AGI, or would that be defined as ASI? Because I always thought that was AGI, when an AI can run an entire organization. They called it organizations.
I would say that's AGI.
That's so. If I keep looking at that benchmark or those 5 levels, because that, to me, that's always referenced by OpenAI, and other companies have their own levels too. But I was thinking, like, okay, we're definitely in the reasoning. I would say we all agree that we're all in the reasoning capabilities. I don't think we're technically in the invention yet. Like, it's not inventing by itself or helping people invent things. I could be completely wrong, but I know for sure it's not running its own organization, right? I haven't seen an AI run its own organization. So I still look at that. I'm like, if you talk about that, then we're not there. We're still in level 3 or level 2, where everyone's talking about level 3, but we haven't really seen level 3. I can't. Yeah. If you say Salesforce, Agentforce, or Microsoft Copilot agents, maybe, but we're not as deep as in level 2 as we are in level 3. So that's how I kind of see that. So when I read something like this, but then take into context everything else that I said at the beginning, I'm like, well, I just say, okay, let's see it. Let's see what we can, I see bits and pieces where AI right now, like, let's say O3, can do things in coding and math better than most people for very specific tasks. But if that's your definition of AGI, then we've reached it. But according to another definition, it's not. So I still think those 5 levels, to me, make the most sense. And until that thing, whatever we get, can run an entire organization, it's like, okay, we'll just wait for it till it can run an
So
organization.
I think that those 5 levels still are, patent. They apply. I just have a different conclusion about invention. I think, AlphaFold is inventing, right? It's doing it in a brute force kind of way, but humans do that too. The thing that happened as an insight in the middle of the night was the neural network processing in a brute force fashion a lot of information, and leaping forward with imagination. Okay, well, that's invention, and I think so is AlphaFold, which is by the way the system like AlphaGo that is calculating all the different protein folds that are possible and coming up with different compounds. And they've invented many new ones as a result of using that thing. And then as far as running an organization, what you heard Sam say was, hey, the first AI agents are going to join the workforce. Now they'll probably be specialists in one function within the company in the first iteration. But take O3 and you build an agent around O3 and give it the CEO role, and it's running the organization, right? We've already seen demonstrations of how that can be done. So I'm not saying that we've seen public demonstrations of AGI. I think that there is AGI operative in the labs right now.
To me, that would mean that there's a lot of context, a lot of memory available that we don't see publicly. Because I don't know how you could have that agent CEO at the top without huge context windows. Sorry, Beth, go ahead.
Well, I think obviously they have better systems that they're working with than we do, right? Like, I mean, just across the board, why would you hamstring your system? Right? Your system doesn't have to be aligned in the same kind of way. The system that your company uses doesn't necessarily have to be the same that has been red teamed and aligned for the rest of us. At least that's the assumption that I've been using the whole time. There have also been, Karl had mentioned this. I think there have been stories from known red teamers who were saying that they had access to models that then didn't get released, right? So we know that that's happening too. And I think we speculated, or maybe we learned that that there's a certain point, because they're so expensive, that you would just pull the plug and not do something else with that. I I I think it's interesting and newsworthy whether we actually think that their definitions agree with ours, that they're confident, and that they're using these terms, right? So even if it is a puff piece, or has this ulterior motive, when the people who are sitting in the rooms seeing things that we don't get to see, that when they talk, they are revealing things just because it's familiar to them. And one of the things that I think is important is, I imagine that I am wondering, and based on what's being said, I am inferring that they have models that are advising them on building the next models. So I don't think we're in the self-improvement kind of phase, but I do think we're in, like, you had a baby to give your other baby a kidney, right? I do think that they are using specific models to build better models, right? So that isn't gonna get released. The model that's building, the models that's creating the framework under which the training is gonna happen, is likely not ever going to be released to the public.
And
Unless
that's an order of magnitude above what you and I do, right, Beth? I mean, we write prompts to make better prompts. We use ChatGPT to make better GPTs and auto workflows and stuff like that. This happens all the time. You use the same tool to improve the same tool. So why would it be such a stretch to think that they have models that improve models? You know, that GPT-4 isn't being used in some way to build GPT-5 and beyond. And as that speeds up, I think that's where you get to that inflection point that some people talk about, you know, this idea of a snap of a finger or whatever. I do think as we race forward towards the ASI side of things, we will see publicly as things speed up very fast, and then it will be very evident that there is some, hopefully it's in the right hands, ASI that is capable of doing, like, we'll see daily reports, I think is what I would suspect at that point. Is there will be daily news reports of something, another wall coming down, another major milestone, another achievement that goes well beyond the human capacity to solve, in problem solving. But I think that's where that has to be for me, for to be at that ASI level, is that its daily stories about we've solved this. We've solved this. We've solved this. This is also now a thing that's not. It also makes me wonder, when things get that smart, how you deal with trades and stock trading and stuff like that, because I'm not quite sure how that whole system works if you have models that are infinitely smarter than humans doing trading for humans and all that. But that's just a whole other side. I do want to touch really quick, and I won't go long on this. I'm not gonna like stand on my stump here for a long time. I just want to at least bring this up because I think it's important, specifically about Sam putting out this blog when he did. Now, we can say, oh, he's just reflecting. It's just Sam being Sam. And that might be true. We can say that other people from an OpenAI are just putting stuff on X because they're just sharing. And that might be true. I don't actually believe that. Me personally, I don't believe that. I think there is a bit of a roadmap, and it's a little more controlled than we think. I think from the outside, it could look a little bit haphazard and, oh, this person just randomly posted on this day. I don't actually think so. I think there's way too much money on the line for these things to be haphazard, for a company like OpenAI to be, for a better lack of a term, willy-nilly with posts and stuff. So when I look at a blog like Sam's, although I love the blog and I love what he's talking about, generally seems to be in line with what he said before, it's nice to see how he reflects back, having just an amazing job and how appreciative he is of being in that role. I love all that. But there's lots and lots and lots of money on the line here for OpenAI. And as they are transitioning into this for-profit model, I think one of the things they absolutely have to be careful of is shoring up investor money. Sam knows better than anybody, clearly, how much money it will take, or at least he has an outside concept of how many billions, if not trillions of dollars it will take to reach maybe AGI, never mind ASI. I don't know what that will take, in terms of resources. So he has to do what's best for the company and OpenAI in order to reach their ultimate goal. What did he call it? The glorious future? It's the weirdest wording. The glorious.
We are here for the glorious future.
Future, which I thought was the oddest wording to me, but okay. It makes me think it's not.
Sounds like propaganda, right? When you say glorious future, glorious leader, and I'm like, get a second.
That's wants to rewatch Hunger Games in my house, and that sounds kind of like a Hunger Game for the glorious future, Anyway, I just want to say that, like I said, I won't stand on this too long. I'm curious to hear what your feedback is here. It's not that I doubt that these things are in play. It's not that I doubt that they're not moving towards ASI or AGI or whatever. We talked about that. I think there's so many others outside of Sam who have said similar things that we can rely on. It's just that when I see this blog post and I read it, I go, oh, this makes sense. We're 20-ish days out from the new president in the United States taking office. And there's a lot of implications of a Trump presidency and what that'll mean for AI. Some of it actually is probably positive in terms of moving faster with less guardrails. We see that might be coming. That might be great for OpenAI and Elon Musk and people like that. So it might kind of be good for us. We'll have to see how that goes in this presidency. But now you have them moving into the for-profit space. Fine. They've adjusted. He talked about that in the blog and why they had to do that. But now you need billions upon billions of dollars. You also have your longstanding $13 billion up to this point investment from Microsoft, who started investing $1 billion back in 2019, way before any of us were talking about ChatGPT. And then they came around with another investment of 10 or 11, $12 billion. So there's the whole part of AGI or Microsoft and what is AGI and when does that happen? Because that, like you said, Beth, you talked about how that deals with the stakeholders involved with it. There's market influence in this. If I keep talking about it and look what it did to the news cycle. Just Sam talking about it, he knows the kind of impression he's going to have on the news cycle. Everybody's talking about it. OpenAI. OpenAI is closer than ever to AGI. That's good from a competitor standpoint. And it may shore up some people who are early adopters, who were only in it for the nonprofit, research-based, good for humanity ASI. And it may keep some of those early investors in there, which they absolutely need. So to me, it's a bit of narrative control. I'll leave it at that. I don't want that to sound cynical, other than to say I read the blog and I thought, oh, of course this came out when it did. Are you laughing at me, Beth, or laughing at?
I don't mean to sound cynical.
Look, you laughing at me.
Yes, I don't mean to sound cynical, but except for the fact that I am speaking in a cynically way.
I think I'm being
Big
positive,
that-
but I just think there's a lot more at play here than just the blog that randomly comes out.
Oh,
Look,
absolutely.
I think objectively speaking, though, I think when I read it, that came into my mind too because out first of all, the first part of it, if you actually again, those 2 paragraphs everyone's focused on, there's a lot, and Andy touched on this too about, like, I think there's a lot of personal elements there too, and there's a way like, he's talked about it, but he hasn't actually said it in his own kind of, "I wanna talk about it," because like he said, "They effed me, and they effed the company." Like, that's how he really feels, and it r imagine if you get fired from a company that you
Yeah.
I would imagine if you talk to Steve Jobs, I like, when he bought the company back and, like, kinda just I feel that there was that kind of there's, like, visceral emotion that
Sure.
you get to it, right? I also think too, it's this is it required for me, for any CEO to do this. Like, any CEO needs to put some sort of however you wanna, package it, video, blog, whatever, to kind of what is go to me, this is sort of like this is our go forward in this year. This is sort of I've just put it in this format because usually I don't know if most CEOs do this. Some people do, some people don't. But I think like there has to be something that tells everybody outside the company, this is our plan, this is where we're going. But he just did it in this way. So I'm like, okay, well, whether you do it for investors, for people, you kind of hit all, and they did promise by 2029 $100 in revenue. So yeah, you got to get on that, right? So that that was part. Well, I do want to. There's a couple of like comments here, which is kind of funny from the people from our audience here. First of all, AI for president 2028. I still love the example of the guy from Wyoming who ran for mayor, didn't win, but he said he wants to run his entire thing off. He said it was like his own AI. I'm like, yeah, no, dude, that was like a custom GPT that you probably created. So I feel like we could see more of that in some crazy communities. And I think too, there was another comment here. Yes, I think we'll blow through AGI still arguing about it. AI capabilities grow and debate. I agree with that because as again, in our AI bubble discuss, different points of view, the tech's gonna come, but then outside the bubble, I think when we were talking about like there's all this news about ASI, there's gonna be news. Do you all think that, you know, there's a term for people, it's like normies when at the height of blockchain and crypto, everyone called normies, and I think some people are calling like non-AI people normies, but like when this like all this news that keeps coming out, I think most people are kind of like, it stopped being something because there's always something coming out. So if somebody says, "Oh, we just reached ASI today," would you think there's a collective, okay, I'm just gonna go, I'm still gonna do my job. I'm still gonna like
To me, it's like, did my lottery ticket hit? No, I guess I'm going to work today. I guess I'm gonna drive the truck because the last I checked, ASI happened, but it still can't drive my truck. So
Okay.
I'm going to work.
But that's one of the reasons that we're having this conversation, and I just wanna read out Justin's quote. You sort of blew through it. "I think we'll blow through AGI, still arguing about it. AI capabilities will grow, and the debate will persist until it's clear we've reached ASI and potentially after that as well."
Yeah.
But
It's a good idea. Good thought.
but what is important about that in terms of the speed that things are going to happen, is that people don't have a really good sense of really rapid, motion. So this is a framework that Paul Reitzard uses, right? We can tell the difference between walking and a bicycle. We can tell the difference between a bicycle and a car. We can tell the difference between a car and a plane, but we don't have a sense of how fast the plane is going. When it's going faster or slower, we don't have a visceral feeling of that. And that, I get does it change? Can it help me work on my truck? I get that. Like, how does it affect my personal life? But
Yeah.
this has the ability to greatly impact in a very rapid way significant change in how things move forward. And that is what the people that I'm following are highlighting about this. So again, it's less about the exact things that they wrote and more about this is another signal that despite things appearing to move slowly, perhaps, like, it doesn't appear to me that things are moving slowly, but despite that, like, great things have happened and it hasn't absolutely transformed all of society and the world and work, doesn't mean that it's not also greatly transforming work. Let's just start with work.
So just to that point, and Andy, I feel like I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of this stuff too. But like, just opinion. Do you think Sam Altman said anything that we didn't already know that he thought in this reflections blog? Just curious.
Is he talking to us?
Well, okay, just us. Yes, us four. Did he say anything that you didn't or you weren't already aware that Sam Altman believed about AGI or ASI?
I think what it was more clarifying about AI agents. That was to me the biggest piece.
The workforce, the
The work being
course.
going into the workforce.
Yeah.
Not the sale. Actually, going back Salesforce agent force. Like, it's already here. But like, I mean, like, actually going into the workforce. Just to remember, like, his definition, I think it was in the Bloomberg article. It says, like, his definition of AGI himself, what he was talking about is like, hey, can you, for remote work, could you hire this AI to do the work of a software engineer remotely? And if you can, that's AGI. Like, he said that.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I don't think we can hire any of these models as a remote software engineer at the moment. So no, we're not. That agent part was to me the most clarifying thing. Like, oh, okay, 2025, that's like legit. You're gonna see that. Okay, that's everything else was like, you kind of said it in one way or another, some form, in some tweet or whatever.
But the reason you can't hire for the software engineer isn't that it's not capable of functioning like a software engineer. It's not capable of discerning functioning like a software engineer and functioning like a bad software engineer or it's not. Yeah, like you'd still want it if it were embodied in a human, you would give it a really close supervisor or mentor, right? Because it's super smart, it knows all the stuff, it just doesn't know how to apply it. And that's the piece, right? That's the reasoning, that's the
I think we're like kind of getting close, right? Because you have Lovable and Bolt. So let's say you take those two or VO or whatever you use and be like, could you go to Bolt and be like, hey, I want to build this application, this. Okay, go. But you still need to oversee it, right? Like, a software engineer remotely would still need to go back and be like, hey, they may not look at your code base to be like, hey, this is what the application does, this is the features, blah, blah, blah. Is this what you want? No, I want this. Like, you have that full conversation. You can kind of have that now, but there's other elements about being a software engineer remotely than just that, right? It isn't that I know some people probably treat some remote software engineers like that, which is terrible. But on a whole, I don't know if we quantify this, like the human elements, like, hey, how are you doing today? Maybe we don't need to do that, but it's like, how do you feel? Are you tired? What else is affecting you? So are we saying now we can remove that element of the people management aspect of it, remove that and just focus entirely on the work aspect of it too? So it's like, you just do this. You don't need sleep. Just keep going because I tell you to. regardless of the tokens that you're using to do all this stuff that you're doing. So I think there's a lot more things that we probably need to think about and talk about to define what that remote software engineer. And it's interesting because it's a remote software engineer, but like, could it do the remote business strategist? Because that's a role too for a lot of companies. So I'd like to, hey, for everyone listening, like, what do you think of a remote business strategist? Are we there yet? Can we? I'm not sure.
Well, we're definitely at the place of the consultative, right? So you can consult with your better knowledgeable self, because your better knowledgeable self in a custom GPT or whatever you want to use as a system can have all the information at the top of the intelligence right now. But to Justin's point, does AGI have memory requirements, human intelligence on the long and short-term memory to guide actions and experiences? Does AGI need the same? And I would say, doesn't AGI need the same? And so where we are is we are that because AGI and the current AIs that we have access to don't have that yet.
I want to name your definition.
Go ahead, Karl, finish your point.
Maybe the definition that we have is, can an agent oversee another agent? That would be the definition, right? It's like, hey, I want you to have your 5 set of agents to do this. That's your role. And I don't have to think about anything.
And the answer is yes. And what I wanted to remind you is that we talked about on a previous show an academic exercise, and I forget which institution did it, but they created a startup which had agents for the CEO, the CMO, the operations executive, and all of those. And together, those agents, without intervention by the academic team, those agents developed a product and built the processes to deliver it. That was a digital product, so they didn't make it so complicated that they needed external manufacturing. But yeah, those agents collaboratively developed a plan and executed it. So that, I think, is in alignment with what Sam's referring to when he says we'll see agents enter the workforce. And you will be able to, now couple that with the kind of video deep faking and audio deep faking that's possible. This representation, even before physical embodiment with a presence in the workspace that's moving about amongst you, it will have a distinctive voice, a personality from your perspective, and it will have the ability to communicate and orchestrate in ways that the best managers do today.
Right.
I want to make sure we just there's so many comments, but I want to call out everybody in the comments because Gareth, Jude, the Greg Waters show, we had one Beyond Music that had a great comment in here. CJ Styles said Jude, Justin, Witty Noise, Jen, you're always awesome in here. I think I said CJ Styles. Look, we have a lot of really smart, intelligent comments in here, and you guys really, really do add to the total of this show. As far as I'm concerned, you're the man or woman on the bench, and you're adding to it. So I just want to give a shout out to all of y'all because you're on the side of our screen. We can all see, if you're on YouTube, we can see all your comments. And I really do feel like they inform me and they add to the conversation. So even if we don't necessarily bring it up on screen, I just want you to know how much we appreciate you guys putting comments in there, and it doesn't just go into the ether because we're processing it. We're like, oh, that's a good point. Let me talk about that. Or I think Jude just making a really good point about that or whatever. So just put me in, coach.
So also add to that not only are they insightful, but they're funny too.
Yeah.
There's some wits going on in the chat there that not much funnier than we are.
Yes. There's a lot of good stuff about Star Trek earlier that we couldn't possibly get to. There's lots of stuff in there. I love the comment section on it. And, anyway, just want to say thank you to you guys for doing that. Andy, I don't know. I feel like we didn't hear as much from you in the back half here. Do you have some last thoughts here? Do you want to kind of take us home from? We'll just wrap it up after you. I mean, if not, it's okay.
A small thought, which is referencing your comment about, hey, and what we were discussing when we said that, the average human on the street having to get in their truck and go to their work, artificial general intelligence hasn't really it hasn't made any effect that, you discern at this point. But I think where we will start to see it is when the merge between AGI and robotics happens, and this is the NVIDIA vision that, Jensen Huang is pursuing. When you can approach something on the street that is a humanoid and it's capable of the most intelligent and intellectual exchanges with you on any subject, then you'll start to see not only, in your personal experience, what is happening in our world, but it'll also be applicable to almost any job that a human can do. Almost any, including driving your truck.
Yeah. Well, that driving truck example, I was thinking about that after the fact. The real darker side of that is not, I guess I'll go back to work. It's, well, I was just replaced. And I think in that sense, because of autonomous vehicles and stuff like that probably wasn't the best example, because that's somebody waking up and realizing their job does not exist anymore, as opposed to, do I still go to my job because of ASI? I did. Beth, you bring up one comment, CJ's last comment, because I think it's just so awesome. CJ Style said, driving 1,200 miles, stop to watch, 6 hours left to drive. CJ, thank you for caring enough to stop to be part of this conversation. We appreciate you and everybody else. Thank you for stopping. And I'll treat you while you're driving. And good luck on your last 6 hours, because that already sounds like more than I want to drive on any given day. So thank you to everybody in the comments. We really appreciate you as always. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do so. Like this video, that definitely helps with getting it out to more people. So if you're enjoying our live shows every day, I am sure there's lots more people out there that would enjoy them as well. And a simple like from you really does go a long way to making sure other people can do it. So do subscriptions. Don't forget, you can go to thedailyishow.com and sign up for our newsletter there, which is, if you really, really like what we're talking about, then you get even more of that on Sunday, if you can believe it. If Monday through Friday isn't enough, and you really want to dig deeper into these topics and others, like conundrums and other things that we put in there, then go ahead and sign up for the free newsletter at thedailyAIshow.com. All right. Thanks, everybody. Phenomenal. I don't know how many comments we had, but I think it might have broken a record. You guys are awesome. Good conversation today. And we'll be back tomorrow with the news. I think there was a ton of it from Meta and others, so we have tons to dig into tomorrow. Do not miss that show. We'll talk about all of it then. All right. See you guys.